Avowed has arrived, and I'm going to show you guys some of the more unorthodox ways you can build out your character, and ratchet the combat up to ridiculous in the best possible way. Thanks to Xbox for sponsoring the video. When you boot this up and create a new character, you're not locked into picking one specific playstyle, so it's essentially on you to invent your own. The open skill tree and dual wield mechanic allows complete freedom of what you assign to your hotbar and what you slap into one hand, your offhand, both hands, or none hands using just your hands. Outside of the unique fungal world theme and the good versus evil morality choices you'll have to make, the creativity of the character building system is my personal favorite thing to tool around with. So here are just some of the unique playstyles I've come up with so far. The Time Pirate, Ultra Mage, Counterfist, Battlecaster, and Tactician. By the way, I'm playing the PC version here, but this is also available on Xbox, and Avowed can be played through in its entirety through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate as well. Yeah. Alright, now the first themed build I've come up with is the Time Pirate. This one is just flat out fun to play as, using a sword in one hand, flintlock pistol in the other, with a rifle on the alternate loadout. But the real hook of this build uses the steady aim ability, which can be unlocked really early on. Steady aim gives you the ability to slow down time whenever you charge up a power shot with a bow or firearm. Throwing a pistol into your offhand synergized with that ability lets you essentially have a triggerable bullet time on your alternate attack button at all times to supplement your melee weapon. Kinda like creating your own cinematic mid-combat editing, just hold down the pistol input to control the flow of time. I grew up on Max Payne and Fear, so I'm all about this offensive slow mode action hero playstyle. Other things I like to pair with this build are the marksmanship and finesse passives, increasing the power of firearms and single-handed melee weapons. Quick Switch is also useful since this will actually reload your weapons when they're in your inactive loadout. So you can shoot, swap, and not have to worry about reload as much. For abilities, I like to use Into the Fray, Clear Out, and Charge, which are all in the fighter's skill tree. That gives you an enemy yank over, a rotational melee attack, and a rushdown charge to close the distance. You also might want to pump some points into Dexterity for this one, since Dex increases your overall attack speed, parkour speed, and reload speed. Another option, instead of using a two-handed rifle as your backup weapon, is to dual wield the pistols, since these are the only two weapons you can charge and fire at the same time. Or stagger the shots to use bullet time back to back. Next build is what I'm calling the Ultra Mage. This magic user wields a wand and makes the most out of the game's versatile grimoires. By having two grimoires though, one in each loadout, this gives the caster access to a possibly overkill 14 total spells to trigger during combat. That's 6 assigned to the skill bar, 4 on each bonus skill bar the grimoires provide. Grimoires not only give you access to more active abilities than what can fit on your skill bar, but they also increase the rank of their associated spells, cuts down on their casting cost, and lowers their cooldown. You'll need to spec into the Grimoire Mastery ability to use higher tier spells and get the most out of this build. It's going to take a massive amount of essence, which is kind of like mana, to power the spell onslaught, but there is a workaround by tapping into just a smidgen of blood magic. This allows you to consume your own health in place of essence to cast a higher output of abilities. The Arcane Seal is useful to get as well since it regenerates your essence, along with Corrosive Siphon to refill your health by sucking it straight out of someone. You might want to focus on the intellect stat to have a higher essence pool, along with constitution for a larger health gauge. The toughness passive is also useful to beef up your HP. That's my Ultra Mage build, and if you prefer your enemies and screen melting with effects, this playstyle is quite high in spectacle. Next one is my Counterfist build. You have a better name for this one, let me know. This loadout requires no weapon other than your meat paw and a shield in your offhand. A brawler class with a focus on parrying incoming attacks and retaliating. This is pure chaotic flailing combined with daintily timed deflects, which creates a zen-like back and forth rhythm to this playstyle. To be able to parry instead of just block, you're going to need the parry ability for this one, and Shield Bash is also a good option to take along with that. The Iron Fist passive will also increase the power of your unarmed strikes. Some gear will actually affect unarmed damage, like these gloves giving my hand some fire properties. Pumping points into Dex for the increased attack speed along with Resolve for a higher stamina gauge is a must for this setup. Fury of Blows is useful for many builds, including this one, since the buff will max out your attack speed, increase your stamina regen, and movement speed. Power Slide adds a knockdown effect to your sprinting slide, and Power Jump lets you smash down just by pressing crouch in the air. And if you're not into timing parries, just going double meat paws works with this set of two. Next up is what I'm calling the Battlecaster. Instead of using traditionally equipped weapons, this build instead relies on magically summoned weapons to give you a dynamic kit that can do a little bit of everything, using the spells Spirit Lance, Black Bow, and Parasitic Staff. The Lance is going to be your go-to melee range damager, and its pokes actually detonate in a small area of effect around it. The bow comes imbued with poison damage and can pierce multiple enemies at rank 2 of the spell. The staff has an important use, since strikes with it actually earn you back essence, so you want to summon that before you run out. At tier 2, the staff can also trigger an AoE blast if you do a power attack. You can build out the stats for this build pretty much any way you want, either Might for more raw damage, Dex for attack speed, Perception for crit chance, Intellect for more essence, Resolve for higher stamina, or a little of each of them, since this is more of a jack-of-all-trades playstyle. And last up, I'm calling this one the Tactician. Now, up to this point, those other builds are pretty high combat shenanigans intensive, so I came up with the Tactician for those that are less interested in battle, more about getting through to see the story. This build actually only has companion abilities mapped to the skill bar, putting you more on the backlines as an advisory role that uses your allies to kill things. Companions do trigger their active abilities eventually on their own, but manually triggering them is much faster and more effective. At any time, you can also pause combat with the ability wheel, move the camera around, and prime up a sequence of abilities not only for just your companions, but for your own abilities as well. This ability wheel mechanic is useful for every character build, since it lets you access every ability you've unlocked instead of just the ones you have on your skill bar. Alright, those were just some of my personal favorite playstyles in Avowed, but I'm interested to hear what kind of character synergies you guys can think of. An invisible tank, a minion master grenadier, a blood mage sniper, I don't know, those are all possible, but you tell me. Something I actually didn't know until I started playing Avowed myself is that the game is set in the Pillars of Eternity universe. The game is highly lore intensive with a lot of in-depth dialogue, so if you're a Pillars of Eternity fan, you're gonna go in with a bit of an advantage with some of the fantasy terminology they use. There's also a few other mechanics I didn't even really dig into much in this video though, like the whole base camp system. This has a lot of important tools here, like the workbench, which is used to rank up the quality of your gear and refine crafting materials. The enchanting station is used to alter the properties of unique rank weapons, letting you choose a bonus modifier to apply to them. Like this rifle, I just made it so its bullets will bounce between 2 additional enemies. The Totem Shrine is used to further incentivize exploration of the world, rewarding you with passive character buffs the more totems you collect. Each area in the game has a totem base you'll need to find, and then you can socket individual totems into that you'll find hidden around each area. At your camp, you can also engage with your companions, dig into their backstory, and take on companion-specific side quests. If you have the Premium Edition, you can swap out your companions' outfits here in camp as well. Your companions have their own ability upgrade options, which allows further customization of your team's overall playstyle. Avowed is filled with choices, and many situations have multiple outcomes depending on if you're nice, passive, or just flat out evil. Like this questline, which ends with a confrontation that can be handled aggressively with you having to fight to the death, or you can take an entirely different route through the dialogue and end it peacefully without having to punt someone off a cliff. You'll also have some dialogue skill checks that come up from time to time, and those are tied to your distributed stats, which is something else to consider when building out your character. In the initial creation process, depending on which background you take will also open up different options during dialogue. And now while I wrap all this up, I'm just going to let the game's built-in parkour system speak for itself. Okay, I want to give a big shout out to Xbox and Obsidian Entertainment for sponsoring the video today, and for directly supporting Boomstick Gaming. Avowed is available as of February 13th if you get the Premium Edition, February 18th to buy the Standard Edition, or just sign up for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which includes access to Avowed. I'll put a link down in the description if you want to check it out. As always, I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.